last episode of Manzi, our brave hero discusses the very original and compelling concept of a phantom evolving ignoring, sharing his thoughts about FNAF and leaving this chapter of his life behind for good, while embarking on a journey to talk about other games like Deltarune. Will he succeed? Is it time? Are we finally going?
Okay, I know what I said in the last video, but the topic of today is something that I'm way too passionate about to ignore. So bear with me a little, okay? If you've been following me for a while, or have seen me on other people's streams, you'll know that I'm a big fan of beta content in video games. There's just something so captivating and interesting about being able to look behind the scenes, analyzing the development process behind iconic titles, and learning about what didn't make it into the final cut. It's like watching a painter work on their next masterpiece, except the masterpiece is already finished and you've somehow traveled back in time to watch them do it again. But you get the point. I find it very motivating and inspiring, getting a glimpse into how the game development works and reminding you that not everything was gracefully conceived on its first attempt. God knows how many hours I've spent learning about Minecraft's history, playing on beta 1.7.3 and exploring the community around it. Or the insane archive behind Half-Life 2 with the E3 demos, concept art pieces, and the restoration-focused fan games. There's entire YouTube channels dedicated to this very topic. Not only that, betas have also been the focus of multiple digital horror projects too. The idea of something alive or corrupted being hidden in an older version of a game is a very common trope and such a fascinating concept when done well. Things like B313, where you explore an amalgamation of Super Mario 64 prototypes, with creepy Easter eggs, rooms, and levels scattered around the maze that is Peach's castle. Or the Minecraft Alpha 1.0.16 versions, where a branch of new builds was secretly made during Minecraft's early years. These are only two of the many examples that the world of video game betas is rich, compelling, and sometimes even disturbing. And that leads me to today's main topic, the Five Nights at Freddy's betas. Which don't actually exist. Okay, hold on. Just listen to me, okay? This is actually really cool. Yes, it's true that there aren't official FNAF betas, besides a few scrapped concepts and assets from the early games. Which is entirely because these games were made in such a short amount of time that most of the content you see in them was probably made on the spot. And I am specifically talking about the Scott era. People have already found a bunch of cut content from the Steelbook games, but I don't care about that. What I want to look at today is FNAF beta stuff by Nick Markick and Rye5++, which is a project meant to showcase prototypes of early Five Nights at Freddy's games. There's so much to look at here, I genuinely don't know where to start from. To put this into perspective, we've got a YouTube channel with videos that date all the way back to 2023, a Twitter account filled with multiple renders and teasers, and 2 fully released games with a 3rd one on its way. Yeah, again, it's a lot. So let's get into it. To make this a little easier for myself, I'll be introducing each video by their number in release order, followed up by the title and release date. It's a pretty long section and I really don't want to repeat myself unintentionally. Number 1 is PowerOut.avi, released on May 28th, 2023. This was over 2 years ago, and by briefly looking into the comment section, it seems like the project was either put on hold or straight up cancelled at some point. The video is pretty short and, as the title suggests, showcases an early test of the iconic power outage sequence from FNAF 1. Right out of the gate, you can tell that this is a very bare bones version of the office. The doors and windows are still there, but the buttons are missing. The wall is also lacking the iconic Celebrate poster and is instead covered in duplicated kids' drawings. Another noticeable detail is the lighting. The orange is a lot more prominent and bright, and it seems to be coming from above the ceiling lamp. The floor isn't visible at all, and the desk itself is darker than usual. Overall, it's a pretty convincing work in progress of the FNAF 1 office. There's also a lack of UI, which makes sense. This is just a test for a scripted sequence. It's not supposed to feature any actual gameplay. The lights out version of the room is also pretty different from the final one. The blue light isn't focused on the desk and looks a lot more saturated. It's nowhere as atmospheric, but I guess that's part of the charm. Oh, and then Freddy appears. He looks pretty off here, and not just the face, or what we can make of it, but the music too. This isn't Toreador's March, but instead Fox Hunter's Gallop, the Mangle's Quest theme. I like the implication that Scott scrapped this song early on and then brought it back in FNAF 3, because recycling old ideas from previous projects is a very common thing in game development. The video ends with a quote-unquote jump scare, which is actually just a PNG of Freddy with the scream sound from the trailer. As goofy as it looks, this is actually pretty accurate. Scott stated that during development, the jump scares were single frames, so props to the creators for doing the research. Number 2 is FNAF 1 June 17th build AI test, uploaded only a few months ago on March 28th, 2025, which is a big jump in time. The video showcases a new build featuring actual gameplay, sorta, starting off with this really boring menu. Freddy seems to be the same model shown in the second anniversary screenshots, with chunkier cheeks, a lack of freckles, and cleaner textures. The light shining on his face is also a little different, but it might just have to do with his materials. The music is way less atmospheric, the static overlay is a lot faster, and the only option is play. The intro card is also missing the 12 AM text, and only tells you which night you're on. Now this looks way different. Most of the desk props are back, although the fan isn't animated yet. The Celebrate poster has been implemented, however the render itself is from the Let's Party one instead. The lighting is mostly the same, with the only major differences being the lack of a white light blasting on the desk, and the orange light actually coming from the lamp itself. Although the buttons are still missing, the lights can be turned on by simply pressing on the doorways. The vibe in the hallways is also warmer than in the final game. Also, something I think is worth pointing out is the 4:3 aspect ratio. While this was common for most of the early titles, FNAF 1 stood out for using 16:9 instead. I guess this is one of the many things that Scott went back to after the game came out. As for the cameras, they're mostly identical. The dining hall is zoomed in to reference the trailer. The backstage camera is placed in a completely different spot, this time hiding behind the door. There's less heads, and no endoskeleton sitting on the table. Also, there's an exit sign above the door, which seems to be the same model as the one used in FNAF 3. Pirate Cove is zoomed in, the out of order sign is missing, the curtains are grey instead of purple and like their iconic starry pattern. Starry pattern. The restroom's camera is in a slightly different position. The hallways look mostly the same, the corners are pretty empty, and the East All camera mirrors the flashing light from the other one. The UI utilizes the scrapped icons found in the game assets, which is kind of a must-have in this sort of project. After looking around for a bit, the player returns to the show stage camera, where we are greeted with the iconic stare from the trailer, followed up by Bonnie disappearing into thin air, who makes his way to our left door, and... what is this render? Dude is so tall they had to make him crouch. I guess he had to clip through the floor to get his sauce bag in the end. And since there's no door button, the player can't do anything but sit there and wait for the jump scare. Which... looks very stupid. It's still a single frame, however the sound was changed to a cheap horror scream. And the game over also sucks. It's just a transparent PNG of a skull. Some of the assets in this video feel like they're different just for the sake of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a solid video otherwise. Number 3 is Five Nights at Freddy's unreleased gameplay video, released on April 12th. First and foremost, the 16:9 aspect ratio is back, and while the menu is the same as the previous one, the play option now shows which night you're on. The intro card has also been changed to be more accurate and to include the scrapped lives mechanic. The loading screen is back and uses text instead of the clock icon. The office looks basically finished now. The props are all in, and the fan is spinning, but the poster is still the same. We also have buttons for the doors with no text on them. The cameras now display the power and usage meters with numbers instead of colored bars, and the current time. While I like it showing the minutes as well, I doubt Scott was scrapped that. Strangely, the UI is only visible through the cameras, which is either a bug or a way to make the game feel more immersive. The dining hall is back to normal, as well as... Cove? Who the hell is this? Is what I'd be saying if I didn't rewatch the Scott interview like 20 times. For those of you unaware, before settling on a fox, the fourth character spot was also being contested between a wolf and a beaver. So, there you go. Wolf animatronic. The backstage was originally called the Workroom, and the Bonnie radar screen was fully animated, as well as having red dots. Freddy doesn't really appear in this video, but we do get a few things from Chica. This render in the hall mirrors the Bonnie one, which definitely makes it stand out a lot less. And finally, The sound that plays whenever someone's at the door is the same stinger from the trailer. The video ends with a jump scare from the wolf animatronic, which is fully animated and uses the final scream. Instead of showing up at the door like Foxy, it rises from the ground similarly to Freddy. I really enjoy how the game is slowly taking shape. However, some of the scrapped assets in this video don't really feel doable. I highly doubt Scott had the motivation to model an entirely different character or animate a single Easter egg. Number 4 is Five Nights at Freddy's early trailer, in parenthesis, 5 Nights, which was released on April 15th. While the trailer is mostly identical, there are some core differences. In the Showtime scene, Bonnie's wearing a black bow tie, just like in the second anniversary images, while Chica's bib is missing the Let's Eat texture. When the main trio stares at the camera, they all have glowing eyes instead of normal ones. The wolf runs down the hall instead of Bonnie, and finally, the endo eyes in the final shot remain the same instead of being swapped with the creepy ones. Also, the text between clips is red instead of blue. My only nitpick is with the wolf. If he already existed, I don't see why Scott would later replace him with Bonnie and not Foxy. Regardless, this is once again a pretty convincing video. From this moment forward, the videos get a little messy. They stop focusing on FNAF 1 and instead jump between the first 3 games. I will continue to cover them in order of release, however, to avoid having to go back and forth. Number 5 is Springtrap Model Evolution, released on April 26th. This video is structured like a documentary about different Springtrap models, which I find super cool. The first render is dated October 11th, 2014, implying that Scott started working on this during FNAF 2's development. Considering how quickly these games were being made, I could see that happening. The character is named Yellow Bunny. It's basically a fixed Springtrap with green eyes, a triangle nose, and reused FNAF 1 feet and bow tie. He's also missing his upper teeth, maybe to match with Golden Freddy? And for some reason, the middle piece of his bow tie is purple instead of black, probably a nod to the final Spring Bonnie design. The second render is dated December 20th, which is exactly 2 weeks after FNAF 3's reveal. And this guy looks so cool. The yellow fur reminds me a lot of the Springtrap from the Twisted ones. There's withering, exposed end of feet, a damaged ear, and fleshy bits. His eye texture is now grey with glowing pupils. The bow tie is gone and replaced with 2 buttons, similarly to the wizards from FNAF 2. The video tries to point out the similarity between this head model and the scrapped Spring Bonnie from Help Wanted, implying that maybe this early rendition of Springtrap could have been used as a reference. The most interesting part of this design, though, is its name, Schmidt. This is probably a reference to the old theories where Mike Schmidt, the protagonist of FNAF 1, was also the purple guy. The 2 most prominent examples were MadPat's first FNAF theory and Mike Kill All. Despite getting quickly debunked and sounding really silly, they still remain pretty iconic after all these years. I guess Scott already knew that this guy would be haunted by the Ben Milan and was even planning to reveal his identity. The third and final render is dated December 28th, only a week after the last one. While not having a name, it's pretty much one-to-one with the final version, other than the eyes using the same texture as the Phantoms. The video ends with an early rendition of the I'm Still Here teaser featuring the third model. This is a pretty believable evolution overall. And again, I like the documentary vibe as opposed to the found footage one. Number 6 is FNAF 1 Lost Kickstarter Wallpapers, released only 2 days after the previous one on April 28th. I'm gonna be honest, there isn't much to say about this one. It's just a collection of fake wallpapers that were supposedly made for the failed FNAF 1 Kickstarter. They look pretty cool, and I like that there's one for each character, including Foxy, who makes his first appearance in this project, but that's basically it. Neat idea, but otherwise an eventful video, so let's move on to the next one. Number 7 is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 gameplay, in parenthesis, lost video, released on April 30th. That is a crazy jump from a collection of wallpapers, what the fuck? Anyway, this video is our first glimpse at the FNAF 2 beta, and there is a lot to look at. These guys on the menu seem to be withered version of the classics, which may imply this game was originally a sequel. The toys are completely missing, and the music is different. The newspaper looks the same, although there's something off about the animatronics. Now, I love this office. The copy-pasted desk from FNAF 1, the doors instead of the vents, the cramped up vibe, it adds a lot of personality. The map layout is slightly different, removing the restrooms from the main hallway and instead putting them in Party Room Freeze place. The game area is gone, a broken kitchen camera is added next to the stage, and the Kids Cove is now attached to the room on your right. The environments look almost identical, which makes sense. FNAF 2 was made in roughly 3 months. One thing that's inconsistent though is the flashlight. In some rooms like the prize counter, it looks completely fine. But then in the restrooms, it's very dim, and on stage, it's super bright. If I had to guess, this is nothing more than just Scott experimenting with the brightness of the flashlight. The Kids Cove now has the Pirate Cove from FNAF 1, but with pink curtains instead of purple ones. As for the toy animatronics, they've all been recolored to mirror their classic counterparts. Freddy's a little darker, Chica has no panties, orange legs, and the Let's Eat bib, and Bonnie has noticeably bulging eyes. Finally, Mangle is not Mangle. She's just a simple toy foxy with magenta fur instead of white. And I actually like this idea a lot, since I've always felt like Mangle was a late addition to the game, considering her camera renders are all overlays and she's missing the hook from the original teaser. Now that we get a good look at them, the Wizards look awesome! People have tried executing this concept in the past, but these are definitely my favorites. Is it crazy to say I kinda like them a little more? At least Bonnie. Bibi got shot in an alley, and the puppet is missing her purple stripes. Ew. From a gameplay standpoint, while looking pretty close to its final version, we also have a power meter, and the wind-up button for the music box is completely missing. If only that were the case with the final game. Also, the mask is classic Freddy, but that should be obvious. The video shows a bit of the main toys and actions while playing the FNAF 1 office sounds and a completely different ambience track. So far, I really like this take on FNAF 2. Number 8 is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 early trailer, released on May 3rd. Just like the previous one, it's a slightly different version of the FNAF 2 trailer. Different models aside, the video ends with a unique Foxy jumpscare, which still uses the FNAF 1 jumpscare sound. Speaking of Foxy, he's the only wizard with a unique model. I guess either because Scott didn't like the original, or because the costume didn't fit with the new Endo. While I think the trailer is great, I personally would have released it before the gameplay video. A lot of the things shown in here had already been revealed in the previous one, so it's not much of a surprise. Number 9 is Five Nights at Freddy's 3 early sound effects, released on May 11th. It's literally just a collection of sounds. Some of them sound different, I guess. I don't have much to say about this one. Number 10 is Five Nights at Freddy's 1 Development Timeline, released on May 24th. I was actually kinda hoping to see a video like this. A crappy slideshow about the evolution of FNAF 1. Most of these images are either from the second anniversary, previous prototypes we've already seen, or the Steam page. But there's also a new render of Bonnie, the show stage, and the dining hall. Number 11 is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Development Timeline, released on June 19th, 2025, about a month later. The video starts with an evolution of the map layout, and I gotta say, I love how many layouts were made while keeping the upside down L shape. Also, the implication that the vents were a late addition is pretty funny considering how iconic they are. Next, we get a series of screenshots and renders, starting with a list of ideas written down for this game. These include broken animatronics, obviously referring to the Wizards, no doors to close, referring to the doors on the sides, Freddy mask filled with lead, reference to the scrapped toxic mechanic, and some cryptic animatronic inspired by Slenderman? Okay, I'm not sure what this one could be referring to other than the puppet, but the mention of Slenderman is quite interesting. It might be referencing the first Game Theory video being a result of a poll between Slenderman and FNAF. The next few images are about the office, where it is implied that the room started out as an edit of its FNAF 1 counterpart. This would explain all the reused assets, including the table and doors. We're then shown full body renders of Withered Freddy and Withered Bonnie, and I know I'm repeating myself, but I really like how these guys look. A few more screenshots from a build we've already seen, some official behind the scenes, and finally, a screenshot of the office. Hold on, there's something off about this. Isn't the light supposed to be orange? That is such a small detail and yet it's so weird. Oh well, I doubt it matters. On to the next video. Oh, what the fuck. Number 12 is later FNAF 2 build, released on the same day. This is a pretty short and uneventful video. As the title suggests, it's a later build of the game, which is pretty much one-to-one with the final version, other than The Office. Yeah, I'm not sure what the importance here is, but the creators definitely knew that this one screenshot from the previous video was the most visually striking one. Number 13 is FNAF 3 early screenshots, released on July 29th. Another slideshow video, this time about FNAF 3. The collection begins with a screenshot of the main menu, featuring Schmidt, and looks pretty much identical to the FNAF 2 one. We're then shown a glimpse of a document where it's implied all the content we've been looking at was sent to the creators from Scott himself. I guess that's one way to explain it. The next few screenshots are pretty hard to make out. They're all super dark and heavily compressed. All you can really see is the messy map. Honestly, I'm not sure what the point of... Okay, this is beautiful. I don't know how to explain it, but this looks like a fake hoax from 2015. The compression in the design, it looks so fake yet so believable. The video then ends with screenshots from the final game, just like the other slideshows. Number 14 is FNAF 1 early Easter egg testing, released on August 5th. Okay, this is literally just an 8-minute video of some old compressed playthrough of the FNAF 1 custom night. There is nothing happening in it other than the Freddy poster Easter egg looking slightly different. Seriously, is that all there is? What am I even? Number 15 is simply titled Him, released on August 7th, the day before FNAF's 11th anniversary. The only noticeable thing from this video is a weird shadow figure sneaking into the parts and service room for a split second. It's pretty spooky, but I'm not sure what to make of it. Perhaps it's the Slenderman-inspired character mentioned in the FNAF 2 timeline video. I don't really know. And with that, we're done talking about the FNAF Beta Stuff YouTube channel. That took way longer than I expected. I'm already 17 pages into the script and there's still so much to talk about. Before moving on though, I just wanted to say that this is genuinely one of the coolest FNAF related projects I've ever seen. Although I have some pretty mixed opinions on some of the videos, the dedication and effort put into each and every single entry is genuinely inspiring, and I can't wait to see more. So I originally intended for this section to be its own thing, where I would analyze every teaser in great detail, similarly to what I've done with the YouTube channel. However, the Twitter account for the FNAF Beta Stuff is a mixture of shitposting and sharing content from their YouTube, with teasers and small gameplay clips sprinkled in. So I figured I'd turn this into a sort of intermission between talking about the videos and the games. I will be briefly going over renders, teasers, and clips I personally believe are worth looking into. So let's get into that. Starting with some simple stuff, here's a full body render of the wolf animatronic, who is apparently named Amadeus. I'm a little mixed on this guy. The idea of reusing the head for Fox is really smart, but the design itself could have probably been a little different. I don't know, it feels kind of bland compared to the main trio. The completely naked body is something I don't really expect from Scott, though that might be part of the reason he was scrapped in the first place. But then, I feel like the pirate head would have been reused, right? It's fully modeled and textured, and even then, who's to say he was always going to be a pirate? That being said, I do like the model, and the render feels pretty authentic. Now, let's focus on the content from the FNAF 2 beta. We've got a teaser of Withered Foxy with the text, "You picked the wrong job, fool." Oh. A teaser of Withered Bonnie in front of the parts and service room with the text, "Dismantled" on the top left. A teaser of Toy Chica peeking from a doorway with Withered Chica hitting right next to her above the text, "Forgotten." And a recreation of the "Something Borrowed Something New" teaser, which slightly alters the text to say "Something Used Something New." These teasers all look pretty damn cool. I think my favorite might be either the Withered Bonnie or the Toy Chica one. They feel like legitimate scrapped teasers. The subtle bloom, the colors, lighting, it's all there. The Withered Foxy one is a little weird. I'm not really sure whether it's meant to be taken seriously or not. As for the last one, it looks fine, I guess. It's nowhere as cool as the original and definitely feels rushed. This second set of content will be focused on the FNAF free beta, specifically screenshots and short gameplay clips. We've got a teaser of Cam 2, which showcases a dining hall and a figure staring at us from the dark. We can see an expanded version of the FNAF free map with a repair mode button and a toxic meter. A variant of the Toy Box teaser, featuring a withered toy Bonnie and a withered toy Chica, while Schmidt stares at us from the darkness. A gameplay clip showcasing Cam 1 and Cam 5, which seem to be early iterations of Cam 10 and Cam 8 from the full game. Another variant of a FNAF free teaser, this time the It's All in Your Mind, featuring withered toy Bonnie and withered toy Chica instead of Phantom Chica and Phantom Foxy. God, that is a mouthful. And the text, "We're not done just yet." Whatever the fuck this is. A unique teaser featuring the music box and a pair of eyes staring at us, possibly implying that the puppet will be returning as an actual enemy as well. A quick look at the office, which honestly feels extremely bland compared to the final version. A dark teaser of the repair mode, which seems to include a mechanic where the player can get locked out. And a teaser for the custom night, featuring the two withered toys and... Oh! And there's 3 more characters at the bottom. They seem to be the FNAF 1 stands, plus a shadow figure, which is probably the puppet. A clip featuring new office interactions, specifically turning the lights on in the hallway and doorway, and a jumpscare. And finally, another in-game screenshot of withered toy Chica and Springtrap in Cam 3. This one was posted as I'm polishing the script, and I need to get this out soon. In conclusion, the FNAF free beta seems to be taking a lot of inspiration from early theories and hoaxes, which I really enjoy. If they can keep this up, I believe it might be their best work yet. My only real nitpick is with The Office. I understand the idea behind it, but it looks a little too grey. FNAF 3 has easily my favorite office from any FNAF game. It's incredibly atmospheric with its colors and props, and this one just doesn't hit the same. Maybe when the game comes out, it'll grow on me, but I'm not sure. With that being said, we are finally done covering the Twitter account, meaning we only have one thing left to do. Let's start from the beginning, the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 beta. What the? Yeah, apparently to go in full screen, you have to access the secret settings menu by pressing Ctrl-C, which is definitely a choice. The menu itself features options for a full screen mode and anti-aliasing, as well as challenges and cheats, which is all pretty cool stuff. I understand wanting to stay accurate and looking legitimate, but some of these things should definitely be accessible from the very beginning. People could easily miss all of this by simply ignoring the game description. I found it by accident myself while scrolling on the FNAF free beta page. Anyway, back to the main topic. The game is about what you'd expect. It's pretty much just FNAF 1 with a few extra steps, or I guess less steps, which validates the fact that you need to own the original game in order to play this at all. Bonnie and Chica activate on night 1 and work the exact same way as the original. Bonnie comes from the left, Chica comes from the right. The only difference is purely visual and unrelated to the characters themselves, that being clicking on the doorways to shine the light. Yep, that's still present in this build. Also, there's no phone calls, which really shows just how much character Phone Guy adds to the game. It constantly feels like something really important is missing despite how annoying people find him to be. And that is one thing I can definitely give this game, as well as the visuals of course. Then we have the Wolf, or Amadeus, who, yeah, he's just Foxy. You'd expect him to work a little different, but no. Slowing down by watching the cameras, free positions, a running animation, yada yada. One cool addition, however, is the Beaver, which you can either activate from the settings menu or the custom night menu. Yep, this guy also made it into the game, but unlike the Wolf, he doesn't really get a name. When the Beaver is active, a new camera will show up on your map between the two hallways. He's just another Foxy who runs down the East Hall instead. One neat detail about this guy is the design. Aside from his shorts, the head model is from that weird Freddy with a big forehead you can find on the backstage. It's definitely an interesting use for it. And finally, we have Freddy, who, you guessed it, works the exact same way as FNAF 1. He's a moving wall, he only moves forward, never backward, stall him on the cameras and prevent him from getting to your office, blah blah blah. While playing this, I kinda got the vibe that it's a YouTube first, game second kind of project, which is not a bad thing at all. Don't get me wrong, I adore this thing. I just personally don't think that it's a very entertaining game. Despite all of that, I have found some pleasant changes from the full version. When you switch between cameras, the annoying flashing white bars have been replaced with black ones, making it a lot more pleasant to look at. Also, pressing the escape key no longer crashes your game, which I'm sure will be greatly appreciated by people who are new to FNAF. Apparently there was also a scrapped version of this game, and the one you're seeing right now is 2.0. I can't really be bothered to look into that though. I'm way too deep into this video right now and there's still content to cover. So let's move on. Wait, Golden Freddy was here? The Five Nights at Freddy's 2 beta. God damn it. Yeah, secret settings menu. So cool you are. Yum yum yum. Unlike the first game, this one doesn't feature any cheats. You do get the option to stretch the full screen, however. That's funny. Also, you get to swap Foxy with Amadeus. Now, the first major difference with the FNAF 1 beta is the inclusion of phone calls. You can tell it's not Scott, but the voice actor does a good enough job that it doesn't really matter. And either way, it's still better than using an AI voice or something. Gameplay wise, the first thing that caught my eye was the puppet mechanic. If you recall from the footage we looked at, there's no wind up button. So what's the alternative? The puppet works just like Freddy in FNAF 1. You stall it for the cameras to keep it out of your office. It's a really simple solution and one I don't mind at all. When you add the other new mechanics to it, every camera matters, which is FNAF 2's core issue. And in a way, kinda makes the beta more balanced experience. Worry not, the toxic meter is here to add some bullshit into the mix. Okay, that was a little mean, but let me explain. Yes, the toxic meter is here, and it fills up the longer you keep the mask on. However, it only appears once it's halfway full, and then forces the mask off once it reaches its maximum capacity. After that, you're put on a cooldown until you can use the mask again. Sounds fair enough, right? That is, until multiple characters are about to enter your office. The main free toys, new animatronics and the main old animatronics work the exact same way as the original, meaning you deal with them by using the mask. This isn't an issue in the base game because there is no limit to it. In this beta, however, you do have a limit. And it's not like the cooldown only happens when you keep the mask on for too long. No, it's always there as soon as you take it off, even if you can't see it. This means you don't get enough time to deal with multiple animatronics, because the moment you take the mask off the first time, someone else might be coming in. Maybe there's something I'm missing and it is actually balanced, but as it stands right now, I think the toxic meter should be a toggleable option in the settings menu. Or, maybe I'm just a pussy and I'm really bad at the game. Mask shenanigans aside, Mangle, or New Foxy, works a lot more like classic Foxy now. She has multiple camera positions and will be sent a step back by being flashed. If she gets out of the kid's cove, you'll get jumpscared. Old Foxy works the exact same as base FNAF 2, although he can now go into a few rooms in the hallway. You might have also noticed the power meter. Yes, it works like FNAF 1, and yes, there is a power outage sequence with Old Freddy. And I really like it. The inclusion of the power meter might also explain the lack of Balloon Boy, but that's just me spitballing. And I guess Endo 02 is here as well, and he actually enters the office and forces you to use the mask? That's cool. Sure. Although there's no death minigames, the FNAF 1 dream sequences are still here, and they're pretty much the exact same, only with some slightly different renders. And story-wise, because this game actually has a plot, we're playing as Mike Schmidt? Holy fuck, FNAF 2 is a sequel confirmed? Yeah, so nitpicks aside, I think this game is really solid. With some polishing, it could genuinely be a better version of the base FNAF 2, which is kind of ironic considering it's meant to be a prototype of it. Obviously, the FNAF 3 beta isn't out yet, so instead, I wanted to bring up a question before ending the video. What's next? Is this project only going to focus on the first 3 games, or could it be expanded to include the others? If you ask me, 4 Sister Location and Pizza Sim could be a lot more interesting than the original trilogy. FNAF 4 has multiple theories surrounding the nightmare animatronics, which you can definitely build off of, though I'm not sure whether the game would play like a traditional FNAF or not. Sister Location showcases actual beta designs for the fun times in the extras menu, and Pizza Sim definitely had scrubbed content considering it got cancelled at some point. With that being said, I think this is a good place to end the video. I really enjoyed working on this, and despite my nitpicks and criticisms, I really do love this project, and I want to see it come to fruition. So, huge shout out to everyone involved. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to let me know what you think about FNAF beta stuff in the comments. Come back soon, and bye bye!